What's up everyone, welcome back to another episode of AWS tutorial, and today I'll be talking about continuous deployments from GitHub to an AWS EC2 instance. And we're going to use code pipeline and code deploy to help us get there. I'm just going to use the Node.js Express app for the demo, but the general process is the same for all other applications. So after the video, you're going to be able to do the same thing for all types of applications. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so step one is to create a new GitHub repo for our project. So what I'm going to do is click new, and then let's just name it Node.js Express on AWS EC2. I'll just keep it public, add a readme, add a git ignore, and we're going to choose Node, create repo. And right now we are ready to download this into our local machine so we can edit it. So just copy this URL and then open VS Code, terminal, new terminal, and then I'm going to do git clone and then paste the URL we just copied, entered. If you don't have Git installed in your machine, you can just simply go to the website and follow the instructions to download that based on your operating system. And right now what I'm going to do is I'll cd into the project. First thing I'm going to do is I will create a package.json for our dependencies. Name, I would just name it, I guess the same name as the GitHub repo. And then we have the version to be 0.0.1, and then dependencies. The only dependency we're going to need is the Express dependency, and that I believe is the latest version. Alright, so next we're going to create an app.js file. First thing we're going to do is we're going to import the Express module. And then we define app as a constant. And then we're going to host it, or we're going to listen import 3000. And then let's define a get method for the root directory. An arrow function, and then we just simply send it. Let's send an h1 that says Express demo app, close it, and then followed by let's do h4, a message that says success, and finally we're going to have a paragraph that we can specify the version number, version 1.0. And then let's define another path that it's also a get. Let's just do products, and then an arrow function, request, response, and it will return a list of products, and each product has a product ID attribute and a price attribute. Let's define another one, product ID 102, and then price let's say 150. And then finally, we're gonna have the app listen to our port number and then just print out something like demo app, it's up and listening to the port number. And that is it. That's all we need for our API. And now let's get to the code deploy part. What we need to do is we need to create a YAML file called appspec, and it needs to be in the root directory of your project. And what we need to define is the version number 0.0, and then the operating system, we are going to use Linux, and then files, have a space. The source is going to be everything in our root directory, and then the destination that we're going to put all the files in our EC2 instance, and we're going to just put it in to our EC2 user and then create a new directory to host our app over there. And then the next section is the hook section, which defines the action or the scripts that we're going to run for the deployment. Step number one is we're going to have application stop, location is we're going to define all the scripts inside the script folders. We're going to define those later. We just call it application stops, and this file will run before anything happens. And then let's set the timeout to be 300 seconds, and then we're going to run it as EC2 user. And then step number 2 is before installed. So before we install anything, we're going to run this script. And same thing is going to be in our script folder, and we're going to call it before install.show. And then it has a timeout of 300 seconds as well, and run as EC2 user, same. And then the last step is the application start. And that is the script we're going to run for starting our Node.js application. And the script location is going to be inside scripts, and it's called application start.show. And we're gonna have a timeout of 300 seconds, and we're gonna run it as EC2 user. Alright, that is it. And right now let's create a folder called scripts, where we're gonna define all our scripts that I just mentioned. Alright, the first one is gonna be application stop.show. I already have this written out earlier, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. But what it does is it first prints out what the script is going to do. And this command over here is it stops all the node servers in the EC2 instance if there are any running over there. And then we're going to create another one. I believe we call it before install.show. And what we're going to do here is we're going to download NVM from the web, which is a Node version manager, and then we're going to use that to install Node. And then second thing is that we're going to check if this directory exists in our EC2 user directory. If not, we're going to create that. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to create one last one. I believe we call it application start.show. And what we're going to do in this script is we're going to first navigate into the Express app directory we just created in the previous step. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to add npm and node to the path so that we can execute that in the Express app directory. And then right here, what we are doing is we're going to install all the modules that we need to run the application. And then finally, we're going to start the application by issuing this command over here. So normally we just need to do node app.js, but that sets up the node app to run in the foreground, which is not what we want. We want it to run in the background so it would not be terminated due to inactivities. And what it does is it just tells it to log the normal logs into this file, and then the arrow logs into this file right here. And that is it. And right now, let's test our app locally before we do anything in the AWS EC2. So what I'm going to do is npm installed. Oh, by the way, if you don't have Node installed in your machine, you can just go to the page and then follow the instructions to download and install it. It's pretty simple. So right now I just installed it, the Express module, and then what we can do is node app.js, hit enter. All right, demo app is up and running and listening to 3000. Seems like it's working. So let's go to localhost 3000, and hey, there you go. Our app is up and running. And let's go to the product path, and we can see our products. All right, so right now let's move on to step number 2, which is to create an EC2 instance. But before we do that, we need to create 2 IAM roles for us to use later on. So what I'm going to do is just type in IAM, click on it, and then click on rows, create row. So the first one that we're going to create is for the EC2 instance. So I just click on EC2, permissions, and then type in code deployed, and we are going to select the Amazon EC2 row for AWS code deployed. Hit next, next review, give it a name. I'll just call it EC2 code deployed row. Create row. And then we're going to create another one for the code deployed. And then hit code deployed. Just code deployed. And then permissions. Hit next. Next. Type in code deployed row. Create row. Alright, so we just have 2 rows created. Right now we are ready to create our EC2 instance. So just type in EC2, right click, open that into a new tab. Click on instances, hit launch instances. I'll just select the Amazon Linux AMI. One thing I want to mention is that remember all the scripts that we just wrote, and right here in the app spec YAML we specify we're going to use the Linux operating system. So when we choose the image type, we have to choose a, right here, when we choose the image type, we have to choose a Linux operating system. So I just choose this because it's free. Hit next, configure instance details. So on this page we only need to change 2 things. The first one is the IAM row. We're going to choose the EC2 code deploy row that we just created. And then in the advanced detail section, we're going to add some scripts to it for installing Decode pipeline agent into our EC2. I'm just going to copy that from my notes, but I will include that in the description down below so you have it as well. It's right here. So what it does is that it'll do the updates in your system, and then it will install Ruby, which is required to install the code deploy agent. And then we're gonna install the wget, and then navigate into our EC2 user directory, download the code deploy from the website, and then install it. So copy, paste it here, hit next, hit next. Alright, so this is very important. We need to add the tag because we need that to identify this EC2 instance when we configured our code deployed. So I'm just going to call it name, and I'll just call it Express app. Hit next. What we're going to do is we're going to add row. We're going to open port 80 so that we can download things from the internet. And then we're going to open port 3000 because remember our Express app is listening to port 3000. Hit next, review and launch. Launch. Right here we have the option to choose a key pair. We don't really need to, but it's useful for debugging if you run into any issues because you can SSH into your EC2 instance to look at logs and stuff. If you don't have a key pair saved in your computer, you can just hit create a new key pair, but I already had one from before, so I'm just going to select that one. So hit launch. Alright, let's view the instance. The state is still pending. I think it's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to pause the video and then come back in a couple of minutes. Alright, so it's been a few minutes and right now our instance is up and running and it passes the status check. So it's healthy. But one thing I forgot to do in the previous step is that in the code, we just have it locally. We did not push it to GitHub. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is git add everything, git commit. Let's just say build a simple API, git push. Oh, I also have a typo here. It should be hooks, not hook. Fix typo, push it again. I'll have another typo. It should be installed. Fix typo. Push it again. Alright, so right now we just pushed it to GitHub. Let's go back to the AWS console. Right now we are ready to move on to the next step, which is code deployed. So just type in code deployed. Open in a new tab. Go to applications. Create an applications. I will name it Express app. Choose a platform. We're gonna deploy that to an EC2 instance. Create an application. And then hit create deployment group. Enter the group name. Let's call it Express app group. Enter the service row. We're going to choose the code deployed row that we just created. And then we have the option to choose whether we want to use in place or blue-green. I just use in place. AWS EC2 instance. And then right here we can select the one that we just created, the EC2 instance. And then next, let's leave it as default. And then why not just all at once? For the load balancer section, we only have one instance, so we're not going to have any load balancing. Create deployment group. Alright, it's done. Right now let's go to pipeline to create a pipeline for the deployment. Create pipeline. Express app pipeline. Leave everything as default. In the advanced section, you have the option to choose your custom S3 location to host your code. I'm just going to use the default. And then hit next. Source. We're going to choose GitHub version 2 because our code is in GitHub. If this is the first time you do this, you're not going to have anything here. So you would just do connect to GitHub. Connection name, let me just do express app connection. Connect to GitHub. And again, if this is the first time you're doing this, you're not going to have anything here. So you have to do install new app. And then sign in. Confirm password. Let's open it up. And then select repo that we just created. I believe it's this. And then hit save. And then connect. And right here you have the option to choose that repo you just connected to. And then it's the main branch. And then hit next. For here we're going to skip this because we're not going to have any build stage. Hit skip. And then right here we're going to choose code deployed. And then select the application that we just created in the deployment group. Hit next. If everything looks good, create pipeline. And that should do it. Let's refresh. And that is done. What I like to do is I just click on details and see how the process goes. Scroll down, view events. Oh, that's quick. So everything's done. And right now let's go back to the EC2 instance that we created right here. Let's copy this URL, open a new tab, paste that, and then go to port 3000. And there you go. Your Express app is up and running and is successful. And right now let's make some changes to the demo app to make it say success again. Version right now is 2.0. Let's just do updated version. Git push. And right now if we go back to the code deployed deployments, we should have a new deployment created and in progress right now. If we click on it, view events, it should be ongoing and everything's successful. If we go back here, if right now we refresh the page, it's going to change to version 2. And there you go, it says success again and version 2. And let's just go to the product routes and products route. And we're able to see a list of products that we defined. And that is it, everyone. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you like this video, I hope you can give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.